So, building Black wealth and opportunity, Clinton.
Yes.
Um, and I know before we begin get into it, I know you got into real estate specifically to help that. So, kind of tell us why this is so important to you and why you chose the career you chose
Mhm.
when it comes to home ownership and building opportunities specifically for the Black community.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that me getting into real estate is also I saw the power of real estate and how important it is. It plays a role, and it's kind of like the foundation of building wealth in this country. I mean, after studying business and reading a lot of looking at economics and how economic structures structured when it comes to capitalism. In a capitalistic society, you have to understand that real estate is very pivotal
Right.
in terms of how you structure your economy to actually run efficiently. So one of the things that Adam Smith, I always quote the book Adam Smith. It's called Wealth of
Wealth
Nations.
Nations,
Yeah,
yes.
we all know he's the father of capitalism. So one of the things that he said in order to structure any efficient capitalist economy is that you have to have three different tiers in there. One is the you have to have labor, which is people who work,
Hmm.
employees, people who are provide their time for money, and then secondly, you got to have land. Right, land is very important. You'll find that land also comes in where there's the third structure and this first structure. The first tier actually depends upon land. Land is very pivotal, so that's why it's in the middle. You have the landlords who provide land, and the people who are the landowners who provide land, because the laborers need a place to live, right? And then you have the enterprise, which is the third tier, and that's the entrepreneurs. That's the people who
Hmm.
create, who the creators who actually produce products, goods, and services to provide for the economy. Now, they say that the producers and all, which is the enterprise, depends upon the landowners too, because they
Right.
need the land to create to build structures, to provide workspaces, to
Hmm.
provide manufacturing, even to for the land to actually provide goods and services, including rare products and also provide services. So you always find that they say the landlords are always the ones who actually those two tiers in an economy and an efficient economy depend upon real estate. So they say real estate is very, very pivotal
Hmm.
and very, very foundational in any economy. So you realize that's why there's so much no wealth but value placed on it.
Right. So, and then when
Right.
people talk about real estate, a lot of times we think about the house,
Right.
but it's really the land.
It is.
Is
It
is
is.
what the house is sitting on. That's what's valuable. You can
Exactly.
have the same size house in La Jolla versus the same size house in Southeast San Diego,
And
and that
different
house in
price.
La Jolla is going to be
Right.
a way different price in Southeast and San Diego. And you
Exactly.
can have the same price house, same size house in Southeast and San Diego,
Mm-hmm.
be somewhere in the middle of the United States, let's say somewhere in, you know, Kansas or something,
Right.
and it's going to be a lot cheaper in Kansas for the
Right.
same size house. So it's really the land that you want to purchase. It's not so much the real estate. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So let's get into number one. And the number one thing we want to bring up, and especially when it helps to come in bringing up the Black community to be less disenfranchised, is first thing is financial literacy and wealth education. Before you can even start or begin to build wealth and opportunities for yourself, you got to educate yourself. So many
Absolutely.
families were never taught about credit, never taught about investing, budgeting, taxes. Taxes is something that's very underrated when we talk about or how to buy a home because previous generations often lack access themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Financial literacy helps families avoid debt traps, building savings, improve credit, and create generational wealth. Um, and why this is important to the Black community is, or what the Black community really needs, is we really need to talk about how we can create more free financial literacy programs.
Mm-hmm.
That's within the churches, that's within rec centers, that's within different communities, that should be in the schools,
Right.
which I if was is coming in the next couple years.
Right.
But the whole understanding of free financial literacy programs. So when people go out there into this real world, they're not making uninformed decisions.
Right.
You know, the next thing we need to talk about, and you and I noticed this firsthand when we used to do our homebuyer workshops at the church. I mean, not the churches, the barbershops.
Yes.
There's credit repair assistance.
Yes.
So Clinton and I, and if you guys remember him, our previous co-host, Michael Dunn, who at the time was a credit repair specialist, all three of us would go to the barbershops across San Diego, and we would do a home buyer workshop. Clinton talk about the real estate. I talk about I can't stress this enough. Financial mentors, someone that can help guide you on your journey of becoming more financially literate.
Right.
Is having someone there that cares for you as an individual. They're not trying to sell you a product. You know, they're not trying to get anything out of you besides seeing you become the best version of yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's one thing that I see that we lack. I remember when I wanted to get married, and I met with someone at my church who became pretty good with their finances. And I said, hey, this is my goal. I want to get married by this date and time.
Okay.
And they said, well, how much you make? And I said, I make this an hour.
Now, was this a woman asking you this? Right. Okay.
And he said, how much you make? And I told him, I made. It wasn't a lot. And he said, so when you trying to buy this ring? And I said, trying to buy it I think it was like 6 months or something.
Okay.
He says, man, you don't get that in 6 months. I said, but that's my goal. You know what he told me? You want to get a second job. You know what I did that week?
When got a second job, right?
The graveyard at 24-hour fitness while I worked my bank job during the day. I was literally working days and evenings, a lot of nights. But
getting it in, you gotta get it in somehow.
But had it not been for him, I would never thought about it. I was like, man, how am I gonna make this happen? It's just, and it seems obvious now. But I promise you, at that time, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Right.
I was just thinking, how do I get to my goal? And I knew that I didn't know anything. So that's another thing of having mentors. You have to know that you don't know anything.
Right.
Another thing is investment education in school community centers. So this is how your money works for you. This is really your money working while you sleep.
Right.
This is people put their money in 401ks, 403bs, if you work in the school system. Um, you know, 520, not 520, but the education plan, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, real estate investing, is you putting your money into something that over time, because you put money with value has been created over time, and then you get the difference of that.
Right.
And so, getting educational learning about investing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, too, having more culturally relatable financial educators.
Yeah.
It's more than just having a mentor, but having someone that looks like you, came from your background, someone that can relate to what you're going through, relate to your goals, understand the valleys that you're going through, but that has already been to the mountaintop and can help you get there. Um, Having people speak the same language
Right.
that you is extremely important. And I know I'm going on.
Yeah.
Anything you want to
I'll jump in here. So one of the things that I just want to go back, where we say what some of the things that you mentioned, and kind of give my perspective on it real quick. The free financial literacy is very important. I mean, right now we're seeing that with the push right now statewide to push for that in California, which I think is amazing because we see financial literacy has been very selective when it comes to the type of school you go to, right? Now, it's something that's either taught by experience or through osmosis because you live in a place in a home environment where there is financial literacy, or you go to a school that offers it elective or something that you select. You can take it that way, or if it's a project that you're doing, or it's a financially focused kind of like class, right? But it wasn't given; it was actually given as a requirement for people, for students.
Did you have any?
No, that's the thing. We didn't have any kind of financial literacy. So the main thing right now, I see there's a bill that just was passed on May 5th. Is AB 2927, right? And I want you all to check out that bill because that's going to change the trajectory of how we teach financial literacy. And the thing about it is that it's not only an opportunity for kids now to actually have that as a requirement in their curriculum, right? It's now an opportunity for all schools. For the graduating class of all schools moving forward has to take one financial literacy class, right, in order for them to graduate. So that I think it's great because at the same time, too, I can only learn from my experience. How I learned financial literacy was going through college. I had to go all the way to college, and then on top of that, get into real estate. You learn even more about financial literacy. You know, I mean, then you learn about different types of assets. You learn about different types of liabilities. This is how I learned financial literacy. But at the same time, financial literacy doesn't have to be very complicated. Right. They've realized that kids can learn financial literacy at a very early age. Right. So AB 2927 is actually just passed in California, where they're now it's going to be a requirement in all schools. Now that when we look at credit repair, they've also made some changes to credit repair too. Right, and how you can use your credit, because one of the things we see that credit marginalizes a lot of people from actually buying homes, right, or using their credit effectively to purchase assets. Now, one of the things that they have done is change the credit requirements in terms of how you buy a home, and you can go research it yourself too. But one of the requirements that I think is going to be to change the landscape for a lot of people and give people opportunities is that they are going to be able now to use your prior payments, like your so if you're a renter and you've been renting for a while, they'll look at your rental history and use that as a credit, as a requirement, not a requirement, but as a gauge to actually improve your credit. Even past payments, like even on student loans, even on certain loans, federal loans that you have. They're going to be looking at that too. So these are some of the requirements now. I think now they're going to be using all three different tiers, different types of credit scores actually determine your credit score to actually purchase a home. So these are things that they're doing right now because they're seeing right. Number one, the affordability factor is in focus across the board. It's not. Let's keep in mind in economics, there's something called necessities that we need to have in order to function, which is food, clothing, and shelter. And right now, all those are almost unaffordable, right? Right now, we're seeing that happen across the board. We've in California, we used to complain about home prices, right? And going into the past couple of years and this year, everybody was focused on that because right now we're seeing that as a whole generation that's being left out or because of the affordability crisis in homes, right? Of purchasing their first home. So that was something that a lot of people were focused on moving into the last 2 years. But now the script has been flipped, right? Homes are still unaffordable, but now we have an affordability crisis on just basic goods and services. Right. So I mean, so now people are now on trying to figure out how do we balance this.
I think I was reading something that, and just for the listeners who don't know well, you guys should know where we're from, but specifically talking about here in San Diego, is sort of the most expensive city in the United States.
Right.
With all costs combined.
Right.
With housing and transportation and food. It's a very expensive city to live in. And, talking to a lot of people, they feel very, frustrated or, just feel like they can't do anything about it. And, that's where you have a lot of people deciding to leave and move to different cities.
Right.
Where it's more affordable, where they can't own a home or so forth. But even with that being said, you still have to, even if you move to another city that's more affordable, you still have to look at the opportunities in ownership. Listen, you have to put your money into something that's going to grow over time.
Right.
Whether that is in real estate, whether that's in an investment tool, or not tool, but investment train, or whether that's owning your own business.
Right.
And all of them require some type of sweat equity, not just financial equity,
right?
But sweat equity, which means you have to work hard in them,
right?
And you have to, sometimes have late nights or early mornings, or, give up the weekends just to make sure these things work for you. But that's okay, because at the end of the day, you'll be able to say that you were able to grow or build something that increase in value over time. And really, that's the best way to hand against poverty and build wealth. Another thing I want to hit on as far as ways to help strengthen Black ownership and home ownership and business ownership is access to capital and funding. And why that's so important is without money or access to fair loans, it becomes difficult to buy homes, start businesses, or invest in opportunities. Many Black entrepreneurs are denied in traditional funding at higher rates,
right,
or lack generational wealth to help fall back on. And so, as someone that has worked with business owners and also someone who has did loans, I see the inequity. I've seen families be able to give their children down payments for purchasing their first home.
right,
Whether that's them having equity in their own home, or they own their own business and they just put money to the side for them, or just helping them get into higher earning careers to help them purchase a home, and also contributing to helping them start their own business.
right,
Some type of funding or loan that they help them say, hey, you know what? Here's money to help start the business.
right.
In fact, one of the best success stories, and this happened in the Black community, was one of the greatest businessmen, entrepreneurs, one of the most influential people in history, not just Black history, in history. Barry Gordy. When he wanted to start, I think it was Tamla Records at the time, it's Motown. He had an idea. He was a songwriter. He was writing songs for Jackie Wilson and others.
Mhm.
And he had an idea that he wanted to start his own record label.
Right.
And his family decided, okay, we're going to put money to the side and invest in things. And he came to his family and he wanted to borrow money to invest in. And I think it was like something like $5,000 or $10,000, which was back in the 50s quite a bit of money.
Right.
But he had to come up with a whole business plan, and he said they really just give it to me.
Right.
But just think about the influence one person had on artists that influenced the real today. Temptations, Ross,
Right.
Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Jackson 5, Commodore,
Right.
Gladys Knight, the Pips, on and on and on.
Right.
Had his family not set aside that money,
Right.
where he knew about and he could get access to capital to grow
Right.
the town. And they started like out of a house.
Right.
So it wasn't like they went and purchased a commercial building. They wouldn't purchase like a home
Right.
and turn that into a studio. Pittsville is what they called it.
Mhm.
But I tell that story to say that having access to capital created opportunities where not only is he able to create generational wealth for himself, but generational wealth for others, and also create opportunities for others to explore their talents.
Right.
And not that we all have to be Barry Gordy,
Right.
but
we gotta be somewhat like Barry Gordy.
yes, I mean, just starting your own business, creating job opportunities,
Right.
Helping people get careers, doing business to business, meaning your business is supporting other businesses, and businesses are supporting your business.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not just one direction of how you get funding. You can get it in so many multiple ways and streams, and create an opportunity for those to gain work experience.
Right.
It's so important that we do look at having more ways to get access to capital.
Right. Right. And just to stress on that too, that's very important because access to capital is kind of like the lifeblood of any business, right? One of the things I would say is this, that, the reason why I stress making sure that number one, we have failing in practices,
Yes.
especially when it comes to real estate.
Yes.
And on top of that, access to capital and grants for small businesses because of ownership, right? I would say we say business is not for everybody, and so I wouldn't say everybody should start a business,
Right.
but there's ways in which you can structure your personal finances like a business,
There you
right? And use it effectively to even fund your own projects or fund your own, create your own loan base or loans in your family. Now, there's life insurance, which a lot of people speak about. I think that's something that we should definitely learn how to actually use that effectively in our community, because that's one of the basic and most, I would say, easy access ways in which we can actually build wealth, but not only build wealth, but create a system in our family where we can offer loans too.
So you hit it right on there. The insurance part,
right?
From my understanding, when I took my banking class on building wealth, it said the first thing we should do before anything else,
right,
is get insurance.
Get insurance, their life insurance.
Yeah. Right. We do have a question. First, let me say, good evening, Lisa. Always a pleasure having you.
Hey, Lisa.
The question is, how do you feel with adult children still living at home? How does that help in helping building capital?
That's a great question. A lot of people are asking today. How do I feel with kids? Because we're seeing that trend happening right now. Right now, you'll find that because of the cost of living when it comes to homes, or you'll find that most people's incomes, right, today, I would say to say over 60 to 75% of your income will go to paying for a place to live.
Woo!
Right.
So if your check is
right,
$30,000, $700 is going to
a place to live.
Yeah.
So what you're realizing that is people are now not being forced, but people have turned into multi-generational living. We saw that happen big time. That shift happened during the pandemic in 2020, where people were forced to kind of stay home for that year and work from home, you found that grandparents now were living with their kids, and kids were living with their family now. Everybody had to stay in the house. So even when you look at real estate and how it's shifted in terms of development, they started building multi-generational homes where now they have, even with the brand new homes, you find that there's multi-generational living homes where you have a whole different section. You'll find that even the ADU movement right now that's in Southern California is being pushed by that because of that. And that trend happened. Now, also the other thing that's affecting that, which is a good, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you'll find that it's not even a question people are really asking today. It's just happening because it's more effective to do it. Is number one, you find that the cost of living, but also you find that there's the baby boomers, who are living a little bit longer now, right? They are the ones who actually own most of that. You'll find that right now in this country, we have the highest amount of homes that are free and clear ever. The highest amount of homes that are free and clear in this country right now, right? So I mean, when you're talking about homes that are free and clear, you're talking about baby boomers, most of the people who have already paid their homes off, right? So that means that and those homes were bought years ago, maybe 70s, 80s, 90s, and now they're sitting on this massive amount of equity. But what they're doing now, you'll see that now they're helping out the new generation. They're actually building homes for them, helping them get into their first home, or even adding on to their home. They're not selling those homes. Usually, in the past, you'll see that creates an opportunity for now new buyers to buy these homes that were already established, but they're not selling. Those homes are creating a bottleneck in the home, the real estate market, right? So what you realize is that they're not selling their home, they're not downsizing, they're not moving, but more kids are now moving into the home to take care of the parents, right? Because it's more financially efficient. And then the home is being passed on that way because now there's a whole tax basis that's actually been created through Prop 13, which means that you have to live in that home in order for you to get the tax basis passed on from the prior owner, right? So it's no longer can you just pass on the home to someone, your children or heirs, and expect to inherit the prior owner's tax basis. Right. The person who's the home is being passed on to has to live in the home at least 2 to 5 years, I think.
Well, that's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean, so that's created that situation now where the generation that has the free and clear homes and sitting on all that equity, they're not selling, right? But they're helping the new generation and actually their grandkids and stuff and actually purchasing homes, building out the home so that they can actually live in it, adding ADUs to the home so that the whole family can live together. So now it's creating that multi-generational living. Now, the other thing I would say is this is a great opportunity for us to understand that culturally, that's something that we in our community can also implement. And I will encourage, because buying a home, especially in California, you have to be very creative, very, very creative. So if in a way you can say someone can live with multi-generational living in a home, so that someone the other person can actually save money to actually purchase their own home later. That's something that I would encourage, right? Because the average amount, they say you need 20% down, and that's what they say to purchase a home in any home. 20% now, so you can avoid the mortgage insurance and be able to actually qualify for them. You don't really need 20% down, but the standard loan, the conventional loan, you need 20% down in order for you to avoid mortgage insurance, right? There's other loans for your first-time home buyer, like the down payment assistance, the grants, and all that, but that only has a certain amount of bandwidth, right? So in order for somebody to save up 20% down, like say our parents did or grandparents did in the past, it takes at least 10 years of income, right? Close to 10 years of savings. And the thing about it is that most savings that right now in the United States, this is the lowest savings rate we've ever had. But a lot of people are in the negative savings, right?
I have a question about the question. Is there a specific reason why this question was asked: are we looking at like historically, or is it right? I know other cultures tend to do it compared to the black culture, or is it with a purpose to help maybe save up enough money to purchase something?
Yeah,
What's I'm trying to.
and it could be so many different reasons. And one that Marisa, I hope we answered at least one part of the question, because there's so many different personal reasons too, right? As I said, it could be multi-generational living, which is definitely something that's encouraged now. It could be where someone is helping saving up money to actually purchase their own home. That's something that definitely is encouraged. Also, it could be where the kids are moving back home to actually help their parents out, right?
Well, one thing I really want to do this, especially in black churches, and I want to know how you guys feel. So, a lot of people in black church, especially those who have been members for a long time,
Mhm.
are homeowners,
Mhm.
and a lot of them do have their free and clear, or maybe have reverse mortgage.
Right.
I mean, they have quite a bit of equity in there, and if they have heirs or children, or maybe they live alone, I don't know. I would like to see them build ADU,
Right.
get some type of the equity out of your home. I don't know if it will be a cash out refinance,
Right.
or I don't know if it's a home equity line of credit, or some other way. And maybe moving into that, if it's just you, or maybe you and your spouse, moving into that smaller part of the ADU,
Hmm. Hmm.
since it's just you two, and renting out your primary residence,
Right.
and you still own it, but now you can rent it at, you know, $3,000, $3,500 a
Right.
month
Right.
if you have a sizable home. And not only will that help pay for the loan you got out,
Right.
bring extra income for you,
Right.
and you're not paying your housing.
Right.
You
Exactly.
still own the house.
Right.
And so I mean, I don't know if this is something that's been talked about in the black community, because I know there's a lot of distrust between lenders and banks, things of that nature, that come and try to take advantage
Right.
of individuals, especially in underserved communities.
Hmm.
But I was looking at this as being a way to help solve the housing crisis,
Hmm.
and to supplement some income that can come in for them, while they can live their best life.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
if that's been happening?
Yeah. I mean, I've been advising a lot of clients of mine on that too. I mean, having some form of rental income, right? A lot of people. Well, this is what I would say: the numbers have to work on that, because then when you're stepping into the rental income part of real estate, it's all a numbers game.
Well, how much do you think? Let's say someone built an ADU, and it's um, like a one bedroom. There's a room, there's a bedroom, there's a kitchen, there's a small living room, and then there's a bathroom.
Right.
So nothing too big in this
Right.
in your backyard.
Right.
How much do you think something like that will cost?
It depends on where you're renting to. Now, when
Let's say you in Southeast.
Southeast San Diego.
Yeah.
So when I do help clients actually do that, I actually run an analysis, right?
Mhm.
Not only do we run an analysis, but when you build an AD, it's like you invest in building a new asset or real estate asset. All right. So you're building a brand new asset to actually rent it out. So now you're looking at the cost compared to the return on investment.
Mhm.
Right. So we're looking at the rental rates in that area.
Mhm.
Number one, first of all, we want to know where you source, what type are you sourcing, where you sourcing the money from, and the cost.
Let's say you like we line of credit for
Okay, so now there's
500,000. Let's say you took the max out. You
Right.
got 500,000 because you don't know the full cost.
Right. So that means you have an interest rate attached to that, right? So
Yeah.
now you pay an interest rate. So if you have 500,000, you build a nice ADU. Now you got to figure out, okay, well, the rental rates based upon one bedroom, two bedroom, three bedrooms. So that way, number one, we can find out, make
Let's
sure
say you got a 3 bed, two bath.
through that. Well, it depends. So So that's what I'm asking. I'm saying that is because how much that $500,000 can build with square footage, and how much you're allotted to build based upon the setbacks in the area, right? Because not all areas you can build multiple ADUs, right? So with some areas you can only build one. Some areas there's now where you can build three in one, right? So you can build one street with your garage, one add on a loft in your house, and one also detached from your house, right? That makes it three, right? So we have to figure out all those things first because number one, are you still going to be living in them, right?
Let's say you're gonna live in the loft.
So you're going to live in the loft,
you don't
right?
need that much space, you know.
So
As long as you can watch your stories and
right.
cook your
So I'll tell you this. So,
your greens,
so let me leave out a variable, which is it doesn't matter what size you build. You just want to make sure you actually cash flow.
yes.
That's what rent when you're going into that rental part of real estate, that's the words that you want to always focus on is cash flow. Now it depends upon how soon are you going to cash flow. The goal is also in the cash flow when you actually start renting it, right? Because now you have to build it. Now there's a holding cost to building it, which means it could be 6 months to a year based upon the permits and all that stuff before you build it. So that means if you take out a home equity line of credit or you take out your financial home, you are paid money. That's the carrying cost of that.
You
right?
may have to. Could you do this? Could you first get a hard money? Well, you still get the home equity line of credit,
Right.
because say the builder says, okay, it's going to cost $350,000
Right.
to build all this, right?
Right.
Labor, materials, etc.
Right.
And say it's going to take 6 months to build
Right.
this. So you get a hard money loan to
like a
to
bridge
build
loan.
that. Yeah,
Right.
so you're not paying anything up front.
Right.
And then
But
once
it
built,
was still all
you pay that off with your
Okay, so in the analysis, because what we do is we look at number one, your cash and cash return, right? It's how much cash you come in with to put up right now, right? And your return on that investment, however long it's going to take for you to get that back, right? So number one, why you want to do that is because you want to understand that you might not see a profit now, right? But if the cash and cash return is favorable, right, it's a good investment. That's like a red flag. Yeah, we can do this investment and make money because a lot of people don't consider those things. They might say, "Hey, I have the money, right, and I just want to build because this is the rent," right? Not understanding that rent is future rent, not current rent that's going to cover the bills, right? So now you're in a deficit starting off, and now you have to play catch up, right? So based upon the rents in that area, right? Because you can't say I'm going to build a 3-bedroom and rent it out for $5,000 because my payments are $5,000. It doesn't work like that. Right. You're going to rent it out based upon the area rent. So that's why I mentioned to you, number one, you got to understand the AMI in the area. There's a lot of things that goes into it that people don't really look at. Like so, and why I say the average median income is because if you're going to rent in Southeast San Diego, right, and you know the average median income in that area is a certain amount, right? Because number one, people can't afford most likely a $5,000 rental. Right. So you're not going to right. So you're not going to 200. So you're not going to build something that's not compatible with the community or you're not compatible with the market, right? The rental market. So what you have to do is now understand this is the cap that the max I'll get on the rent because there's low rent, there's average rent, and then there's the highest rent in the area. If you want to build the highest, you have to come with the highest amenities. Now, if you're going to build put $500,000 into your home, and now you have to pay monthly on a mortgage PITI mortgage rate of say $4,500, right? Most likely it will work because now you're cash flowing 500, right? And now you got to calculate maybe if you're not going to pay a property management company, you got to calculate some taxes, and then you have to calculate most likely money that you're going to put aside just for emergencies. Right. So all that stuff comes into play when we sit down with a client to show them you have to be very practical here because some clients are always like, that's why you'll find that a lot of people buy property, and then they try to rent it out because I had the money to buy this property in this real estate, and I know what real estate does.
Right.
No, it's a whole metric
Single
that goes
family is a
into
little
yeah,
hard. But
right,
I will say this, because you do own a home,
right,
now you can have this conversation.
right.
And that's the importance of
Right.
having
But and the goal is this. It's not for you to actually lose the home when you buy it. And that's because the thing about it is a lot of people will buy a home that they can't afford because they didn't really sit down and actually do an analysis.
Right.
Right. If you're buying when you're buying a home for you to live, it's different from you buying a home for you to invest. It's a way different metric, right?
Right, right.
And that's what I try to explain to a lot of my clients. If you're moving into the investment, create a buy box. Like the investment part of buying real estate is create a buy box of certain things that you can afford, and that buy box should have how much return on investment you want, how much you want to make per year. If you want to hold it, what is that metric, and how much you can afford based upon how much money you have, right? Because how available, right? Because I mean, as I said, even if you have $300,000, you're buying $1 million home in Poway to rent out. Might not be the best thing because your cost of actually your mortgage payment way higher than the rent, right? So yeah, all these things come into play.
So combo, great question. So yeah, I think how do I feel about it? The children still living at home? Listen, I think and how does that help in building capital? Listen, I think right now you can't compare yourself to this generation, and I think a lot of times this generation does. Meaning, well, my mom and dad didn't have to move in with their parents for them to save up and buy a home. Yeah, but homes, when your parents bought a home, cost $60,000,
Right.
and they was making
that part.
Like $19,000.
Right. Right out of high school.
Yeah, and they was making, and granted, they was making $8,500 a year.
Right.
But I mean, it was more affordable, and although we're making more money now, you have a lot of people making $100,000+ a year. But if a house costs $700,000, $800,000, $900,000,
right,
that's not comparable
to
if you're making $8,500 and the house costs $19,000.
Right.
So and so yeah, I think it's beneficial. I think especially if you don't have a family, I think there's no rush into having to move out, especially if your parents or family is willing to help you. Now, the other part of it too is, will that cramp your style? If your parents are still there, they still checking on you. You came home late last night. Why? What are you doing? At 11:30 at night. Where are you at? Or checking up on you and all up in your business. That's something you just may have to deal with. But you just have to ask yourself, what opportunity can someone give up? Is it more so of that, or is it I want to spend $2,500 a month on rent?
Right.
And I got my own space, but I'm struggling each month.
Right. Exactly.
So you have to ask yourself what's more important.
Right.
Listen.
And I think one of the biggest things that and I'll go back to the financial literacy part is that I think preparing adult kids to move out and being more financially stable comes with that financial literacy also. Because a lot of kids today are just not prepared to move out on their own.
But we have a lot of parents that send their kids off to college, and they go to college for 4 years or more. And when they're coming back, they tend to not come into careers where their income is sustainable enough to have their own place, even if they have a roommate.
Right.
And so, listen, I don't think nothing's wrong with it. And sometimes, even if you have a family, you have a spouse, as long as there's an understanding, and as long as there's an end goal in mind, I think it's fine. I think if you go into it with no real plan, just a place to stay, but no goal on, okay, in 2 years I'm gonna move out and have my own place.
Right.
Or I'm gonna buy my own house. Or like I'm working on building my business, so I need that extra money to help build my business. So staying there helps. And I think it's having that conversation with your family
right.
About what the ultimate goal is. So I think is a great way to help build capital. And in fact, you know, one thing the parents probably can do to help, and if money is not so much a factor, is basically you rent a room to your children.
Right.
You
How's that?
know, yeah,
Right.
$800, $900, $1,000 a month, but that family member could set that money to the side.
Right.
Like I'm gonna help you save. Not only are you not spending as much on the market,
Right.
but I'm gonna help put that money to the side for you. So I'm gonna save you from yourself.
Right.
You know, and then in 3 years, say you spend $1,000 a month, you got 12, 24, $36,000 saved,
Right. Exactly.
which you can do something with a down payment on the home.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And
Pretty much.
yeah, you could do something with a down payment on the home. Or you could do something to start your own business,
Right.
or that, and that shows the banks that you have capital available to help get the business loan or what's it for, or you buy that food truck to help,
Right.
So um, I think it's a great benefit. I don't think it means anything negative, regardless if you're 25 or 45. If if that's where you have to get back to help meet a financial goal that you put yourself,
Right.
I don't think it's moving at all. I only think it's moving backwards so you can move ahead. So that's how I look at it.
Right.
Um, Other things that come to the Black community is, and I know this helps, with small business grants, microloans, even with the loans that don't pay too much, that the interest rate isn't too high, where
Right.
it's not killing you. Down payment assistance programs,
Mm-hmm.
community investment funds, stronger relationships with banks and credit unions, so you understand what it takes to become bankable,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to be to access to startup capital without predatory interest rates, as I mentioned. Next is home ownership. Dang, we only got 10 minutes left. Home ownership preparation program. Home ownership. Well, maybe you can get into it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll run through this real quick because we got 10 minutes, So, but yeah, this is kind of like up my alleyway with home ownership prep. Why, as I said, we want to stress ownership here. Buying a home real estate, we have discovered that 67% of most wealthy people in the United States own real estate, right? Well, sorry, 7% of most wealthy people's wealth comes from real estate, right? It's one of the most solid assets. It's one of the most appreciated assets, and also one of the most stable assets when it comes to appreciation and returns on investment, right? There's no other asset that you can get a return. Now, the entry, the cost of entry is what prevents most people, and this is where we try to help people understand that have leveraging the cost of entry. That's how we can actually help you get into home ownership. So so one of the things is this, that we being part of the ARAD and also being the president of California Association of Real Estate Brokers, we do a research study called the Sheba Report every year, which is the state of housing in Black Americans. Since we are talking about how we can help our community in terms of financial. The Sheba Report, I want you all to go check that out. It's on the NARAD website. That report is used to actually see how we can allocate funding and also allocate resources to different communities across the United States that have low home ownership. And it's kind of cool. It kind of what it does is it kind of aggregates our home ownership across the board and also the historical factors. One of them is that we're seeing that we're still one of the lowest home ownership rates in the country. And what we're trying to do is try to find remedies and solutions for that, right? So for first-time home buyers, education is going to be key. One of the things I would say is that most of the real estate professionals focus more on the ready buyers, first-time and then most people who can afford that 20% down. You'll find that most of the programs do is just what it is. I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback from the professionals, but I'm like, well, look at how many loans there are out for first-time home buyers and people who are marginalized based upon the down payment, right?
Mhm.
There's only like government programs. You have the VA loan, FHA loan, and then you have the USDA loan, right? So everything, 99% of the loans out there are conventional. Some of them have 3% down, but it also it's based upon the rates, but you still get that PMI, right? So the private mortgage insurance, when you can't come up with a full 20% down, and then you have to take on a second also. Now, The reason why I'm saying this is that first-time home buyers are the ones who are marginalized a lot, and when there's a demographic of people with low income rates, and you'll find that their home ownership is very low. Now, these are some of the things that I think this education helps us understand that there is government programs, there is programs out there, there is banks that offer certain types of loans for first-time home buyers in certain communities based upon the census tract, based upon the average median income in the area. All those things, NARAB and most realtors, which we call, we've actually trademarked ourselves, educate ourselves on in order to help push that home ownership rate up, because we're seeing that that helps push that rate up when people are known. No one is half the battle, right?
Right.
The second thing is affordable housing opportunities. This is something that the question we all ask is, what is affordable housing? Right? You'll find that some areas of affordable housing is still $500,000, right? So is that really affordable? So one of the things that we've seen is that that's a question that's being asked across the state. What is affordable housing? Like last month, we just went to the Fair Housing Summit, right? Put on by California Association of Realtors, where we have all the multicultural agencies come in and they talk about fair housing. Now, fair housing is now kind of shifted in California to more affordable housing. One of the things I would say is affordable housing is something that in California, there's so many different layers to it, so many different interpretations of it based upon where you live, based upon the income area. But what I'll tell you is this: they are very concerned about how we can make housing more affordable. We have a supply issue here. Just keep in mind, back in the 70s, we were actually building close to 250,000 homes. I think they said every month there was 250,000 permits being issued. We haven't crossed that yet since the 1970s, right? So what we've seen is that, and this is my opinion, we've seen that number one, in California, we love liberal views. We like talking liberal, affordable housing for everybody, but we love very conservative governance, right? Because everybody, it's going to be hard for us to say we want affordable housing, but also want to actually protect the wealth of real estate.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act we have
Well,
to
you
play.
don't want your value of your house to go down.
Right. So it's we're number one. We always have to ask ourselves, if we want affordable housing, where are we going to get the funding from in taxes and tax credits from the government to pay for the affordable housing?
Mm-hmm.
So do we want high taxes, right? Or do we want low taxes and less homes, right?
Well,
so this is the question we always have to ask: is where
people definitely see the need of affordable housing.
Yeah, there is a need.
However, people don't want it in their neighborhood.
Right.
And most people don't want to pay extra taxes to make it happen.
And then they have to jump through all these hoops because of the community reinvestment act, but because of CEQA, which is environmental impact studies and all that stuff. So this is where now the person now changing how they actually price the homes, right? In certain areas. So you have to understand, number one, what is affordable housing opportunities and how we can create more access to homes, in terms of affordable, making it affordable for people who need it, and people who are working hard, investing in their community, paying their taxes, making and taking care of their families, and not being able to afford that same community they live.
Right.
Credit counseling, yes, that's a must. We have to have more credit counseling. As they said, they have changed a lot of the things about how you can qualify for home credit. Down payment assistance, which is big. EPA, I have to say, that has been a big push and a big trend in 2026 and moving forward. They want to hear a lot about it. Even the Dreamfall program that HUD came out with in California that helped people actually with the 20% down. There's always going to be pushback on every program out there. Like I said, in California, we have this mindset of we love liberal views. We like talking about liberal views, but it's very conservative when it comes to our governance. And you see it across when we actually elect our state officials or our local officials, right? But yes, when we talk about the views, we see how much philanthropy happens here, where we have so much. I think in this state alone, we have the highest amount of nonprofit organizations, right? That are helping communities and stuff. So So yeah, so one of the things that I want to say is that yes, down payment assistance is very important. That's what NARAB focuses on, is trying to we've been spearheading number one, say generational wealth. All that comes into as part of generational wealth. We've been spearheading that since 1947, and we haven't stopped. Right. So I want you to check out the Shiba report. That report is good. It has some data that's going to be very important for you to understand, and and I would say support those local organizations that are pushing for more affordable housing, more down payment assistance, more people to get into homes in marginalized communities, so that way we can actually definitely see the change across the board in how we focus on generational wealth moving forward.
And then I'm going to hit on support of Black businesses. I'm touching on this real quick. Is what's needed is mentorship programs for those who are entrepreneurs, marketing support. How do you help your business not become obscure? How do people know who you are and what you do? Business incubators, learning how to start a business, grow your business, and sustain it. Legal and accounting assistance. I mean, if you don't get that right, then you be out of business
Right.
very quickly. Access to contracts, procurement opportunities, so learning how those become available, and commercial spaces. So if you can't work out of your home, places where you can afford to have affordable commercial spaces. That pretty much ends today's show. We did have more, but you know us. We'll bring this up again in the future.
Yeah.
And we'll talk more about it. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As you can see, this is something that's passion to us, drives us every day, and our goal is really to help, ultimately help create purpose and opportunities in people's lives. And we think the best way to do that is to have some type of goal in mind,
Right.
is to help build something bigger than themselves. And the best way to do that is through owning something that creates value over time, whether that's owning real estate, owning a business, or at least just having a career that you are passionate in life, and provides opportunities for the community.
Right.
So thank you for tuning in. We'll see you guys same time, same place in a couple of weeks. Until then, peace. We out.
Peace. Yes.
So one of the things I want to share with you is that um, when you guys have cameras in front of you, you're looking down and you're not connecting with your audience. You should be looking directly into your camera. You should be looking directly in your camera. We need to move that over further.
Now, which camera? It's this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you need to look directly into it. So when you're talking to them, they're having a perfect conversation with you. You know what I'm saying? Those are the things that we start to think about as
Okay.
develop.
Okay. I want to ask you, did you leave early after the movie?
Yeah. I did.
You didn't see the movie?
No, I didn't see it yet, and I didn't want to stay to only see half of it. You know what I'm saying? Because I had to leave. My daughter was in her first tournament. So
Okay, good.
no, I had because PNC because PNC was sponsored part of sponsors. We had giveaways, and then once I left, I know like my wife was texting me at the same time, telling me what was the status of what my daughter's going to play, because I was her first, and I almost like, because she's a rookie, and rookies don't play their first year, but she got to play one game the whole year.
What game?
Badminton. They are great, man. They are serious about that sport, man. I was just,
My daughter, I'm trying to get her into stuff too, so that's good. Did you see the movie,
Michael?
Yeah.
Open day. That was good. I thought there was questions that people never knew, like that his scalp stayed open and the nerves were exposed. So
Yeah.
so that's why he was always consistent.